tossers have thrown it out the door with their behaviour this week. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely look at themselves in the mirror and wonder what the have they been doing. They're hissing at us and calling us cheats in the Lord's long room, and they have the gall to say, talk to us about the spirit of cricket. Absolute bullshit.
There's a big appeal that's hit him on the pad. He's out. Lions gone. New South Wales are 9 down. Onto Sydney Road, and it's hit a car. Oh, I think it's hit a car. What a way to bring up your 50.
All you want is to leave it all behind. Now there is a simple remedy to stay fit for all eternity.
Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. It's an emergency show because the Australian selectors have dropped a bloody bombshell on a Friday afternoon. They've axed Nathan McSweeney. They've called up Sam KONSTAS. They've also called up Jai Richardson, which flew under the radar, but that's also quite significant with all the cricket to come. But Sam KONSTAS in, Nathan McSweeney out. I have a lot to say about this. So many things to discuss. Joining me is Sharbel from Crickblog. Sharbel, how are you?
Manners, I'm well, mate. I'm well. Christmas is coming up, so winding down and getting ready for the fun couple of weeks ahead, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you, mate. Mate, Christmas might be coming, but I'm heating up because the Border-Gavaskar Trophy is on the line. The series is on the line. The Australian cricket team is in disarray, and McSweeney has felt the brutal blow from George Bailey. Now, George Bailey released a statement basically saying exactly what I outlined in a podcast recently, that he's got a big future, McSweeney, but it was just sort of felt that it was right to make a change. And it's not hard to see that Bumrah is mesmerising McSweeney at the moment. But what really struck me from the reaction to the announcement, and one of the reasons you're here, Sharbel, because I know you think similarly to me, is no one's happy about this announcement. No, everybody's like, oh, no, it should be Khawaja, it should be Marnus, it should be Mitch Marsh. Everybody's saying this young bloke who's played 3 tests is the scapegoat from a poor top order batting, yet Khawaja and Labuschagne have been struggling for a lot longer. And that, to me, where this selection panel's gone wrong, because nobody's happy with this decision and everybody's pointing the finger at several other players. And so it's clear to me that the selectors have gone wrong in the last couple of years, and the fact that they've put so much faith in the incumbents has meant that performances have become less important. So it's a very interesting situation they've got themselves in. So, Sharbel, that's my first reaction. Everyone seems to be saying, oh, it should be Marsh, it should be Khawaja, it should be Marnus. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I'll paint a picture here. If Khawaja and Marnus have been performing well in this series and McSweeney has been showing the numbers that he's delivered so far, McSweeney stays in the team because the others are sort of lifting him up a bit and they can give him a longer rope. But because the others have been poor, it's easier for the selectors to then go, okay, we'll keep the experienced guys in and just drop the new guy. And I thought they've treated him very harshly, I felt, because he's been put into a position where, you know, he's not an opener by trade. They've thrown him into the deep end, asked him to swim, and I thought he contributed well at Adelaide. I thought under lights over there helped avoid a Perth-like collapse, and that helped set up the test for Australia. Because the key is Travis Head's come in the 41st over in Adelaide, the 39th over in Brisbane. That's been crucial in Travis Head being able to play the way he does against a ball that's not doing as much. It's the older ball. That's the key in this series. It's not so much about the rate of scoring at the top, it's the amount of time you bat. And it's been very difficult for McSweeney, but I think he's the fall guy. And that's what I have an issue with. He's the scapegoat. He's the guy that's been cast aside when Marnus and Usman have been averaging under 30 for quite some time now. I feel sorry for him. I've just got to hope that KONSTAS can handle it and can deliver more than what McSweeney can. And when you talk about the new guy being able to deliver more than the guy who's just been dropped, well, why are you consistent with that across the rest of the team? Because Mitch Marsh hasn't contributed a lot to this team. Can't bowl. I said this to you before the Adelaide test. I wouldn't pick him if he can't bowl. But constantly they've told us Mitch Marsh is all right to bowl. He can contribute overs. Well, we were down a bowler in Brisbane. He only bowled 2 overs. And that hurt us. You got Bo Webster there who's been in Shield doing an amazing job the last few seasons. But he doesn't get a look in. Marshall's been short of ones, not bowling.
I agree. I absolutely agree. It seems like there's too much favours being given to the incumbents, too many favours to their mates. Yep. Clearly, they didn't want to blow up this team before Boxing Day because, they probably got all their Christmas Day celebrations planned, and would have been tough to tell them all not to bother coming. And so being sensible, I do think there is an element to, if they were going to blow up the team, it probably needed to be after Perth when we lost in embarrassing fashion. That's when you needed to make drastic changes. It's hard before back-to-back huge tests to just throw everything out the door. So I sort of understand the selectors have to have some modicum of stability.
I wouldn't blow up the team. I agree with that. We've had the better of the last 2 tests, so I wouldn't blow up the team.
So my thing is, firstly, they have to tell Khawaja, you have to finish at Sydney. I'm only on board with this decision if they've told Khawaja, you have to finish at Sydney. That's it. If Khawaja goes on,
I have a different view there.
Go on. What do you think?
Because I think they'd try to keep him in for that Sri Lanka tour. So we've got Sri Lanka in January.
Yeah, but that's bullshit. You can't have a guy averaging 25 opening the batting, and then you bring in a youngster and you drop him as well. Yeah, so I think you've got to say to Khawaja, we're giving you 2 test matches, go out on a high. We like your experience. And I do agree that sending out KONSTAS and McSweeney to open the batting against Bumrah would be pretty tough. You can't imagine those two. Like having someone experienced out there is good, but it's gone on too long.
Yeah. I agree with that viewpoint. Yeah, that's fair. But it's just then the alternative is you drop Marnus and play McSweeney at 3. But then the argument there is you got 2 inexperienced guys in the top 3. But again, the return, like McSweeney has struggled against Bumrah, but as have Khawaja and as have Marnus has got 6 runs off 72 deliveries against Bumrah in this series, and he's been dismissed twice. So they're struggling as well, and they're more experienced. So the fact that he gets the fall is harsh. And Bumrah is not just the best bowler in the world, man. You've watched a lot of cricket. I'd say he's the best touring bowler since Ambrose to come here to Australia. He's that good. He's an all-timer. So
that's a good.
And McSweeney has held his own, and he's faced, 200 plus balls in the series. And I know that's not the basis to judge the success of an opener, but a series like this requires you to see out that new ball period. And he was looking good at Brisbane as well, and I thought in the first innings before the day was washed out, day 1. So look, it is what it is.
Yeah, so I really like KONSTAS. I think he's a really good player. He's super talented. There's no doubt about it. He's a generational player. And I like the idea of giving him a couple of test matches before the Ashes next year, because clearly this team is on its last legs. So you speak about Marnus. Again, I'm saying to Marnus, well, I'm not saying it actually because you don't need to, but if Marnus doesn't perform in Melbourne and Sydney, he ain't going to Sri Lanka. I'd be just saying, you got to go back to Shield cricket and get your form back. He's got a lot of time. He's under pressure. And then so if you end up at the end of this summer, Khawaja and Marnus are out of the team, then you've got McSweeney to bring back in, who has at least played some test cricket. You've got Sam KONSTAS, who's played a couple of tests, we hope, even though they're not guaranteeing his selection. So, I like KONSTAS being in there for that reason, because it's clear Khawaja can't go on to the Ashes next year. As you say, at very most, he could go to Sri Lanka and maybe the World Test final. But, this is bullshit, Charbel. Like, Australian cricket is not about carrying 38-year-old openers averaging 25. Like, Bailey has – what is going on? And we've been gaslit. Bailey, Cummins, they've gaslit us for the last 2 years 3 years with Finch and then Warner and all these other struggling players. Like, oh, no, we've been successful as a group. So this is a stat that was on Twitter this week. This is the lowest average by a top 3 for Australia in a test series since 1888.
Yes.
Yeah. You don't. If you're George Bailey, you could drop all 3 of them without any any blowback because you could
There's
say,
a case to
look
drop
at the
all three, yeah.
numbers.
Yep,
Absolutely.
yep. And
they've left
McSweeney's
it
the fall guy. The new guy's
Yeah.
the fall guy, and that's disappointing. And I think
they've
it
left
goes
it
back
too
to-
long. They've left.
I
That's the
think
problem.
it goes back. Yeah, look. To be fair, the last few years, you look at 2 years ago, who do you drop out of the team? It was a successful team. We just won the World Test Championship last year. The only guy who you could have argued to be dropped earlier was David Warner. He was struggling for a few years. The rest, Marnus was doing well. Khawaja was strong at the top. Steve Smith is Steve Smith, Travis Head, etc. It was very difficult to drop anyone a couple of years ago. But I think when Warner, I think they gave Warner more than enough time. I think he should have been dropped earlier to try blood in an opener at that period of time. But then you put Smith at opener, and that didn't work. That stuffed everything up. I think last summer was the right time to try blood someone in against the West Indies and New Zealand because of the lack of Test cricket throughout this year. And then you go into India and you've got yourself into a bit of a pickle. So it comes back to that. I think the planning from last summer wasn't the best, and we're feeling the brunt of that now. How KONSTAS goes against Bumrah is going to be the big question because he's a generational talent, but you're throwing him in against an amazing bowler. So we'll see how that goes.
But I just think they're too slow to react. So I agree with your assessment. But Khawaja, his form something now sort of is going back 18 months.
It's a while, yeah.
So they should be ready for this. Like they should be like, okay, this guy's not performing. Like they could have dropped him after the Perth Test. They could make a change. They could have made a change during the series and brought in another opener. But you go now, it's the deciding 2 Test matches. You've left it so late. The trophy's on the line. McSweeney's out. So I sort of see why they can stick with Khawaja, but they have to tell him to finish at the SCG. I should tell Khawaja at the SCG to finish. Someone should tell him. Like he shouldn't even be in the team now. And then Marnus, as I said, I think at this stage you probably got to give him till the rest of the series. Maybe if he fails in Boxing Day, you can drop him for the Sydney Test. But then there's talking about, where Inglis fits into all this. I agree with you about Mitch Marsh, and I've been saying this. I predicted at the end of the summer, beginning of the summer, by the end of the summer, he would be out of the Test side. He is not a good enough player to only bat. He averages 30 and 40 tests. He's not really a batter. He's a hitter. He sort of just hits the ball. And he's got, when he's on, he's great, but that's not good enough. I'm sorry.
I agree.
Just because Cummins and him are best mates and Marsh is a good bloke, they just leave him in there.
Look, Marsh is one of the guys you'd love to have a beer with. Seems like a great fella, but what's the benefit to the team, right? I was saying that before the second test, and I copped a bit of criticism because, Marsh was the only guy averaging above 40 in the past 12 months in our team, but you got to be contributing with the ball as well because there's going to be times in the series where we're going to need you. And when he does bowl, it's very ineffective. So
do you think they could have, and people are saying this on Twitter and in the chat, that they could have, if they really like McSweeney, they could have moved him to 6 for this Test match?
Possibly.
Mitch Marsh
as well.
but
they're not going to drop Marsh at this stage because they love him, right? Yeah, his mates, and he's very popular in the group. So he won't be dropped. It's got to get really bad in terms of the batting for Marsh to be dropped, and that's disappointing. That's disappointing. It shouldn't be like that. It should not be like that at all.
No, there was a article by Ben Horn saying that KONSTAS is not guaranteed, meaning the Australians could rejig the order for Boxing Day. So say Marnus goes up to open, Smith to 3, Inglis to 4, Head to 5. I don't like that.
If you're going to rejig, surely give McSweeney a chance at 3 or 4 then.
Exactly.
That's it. That's even worse on McSweeney because they've thrown him to the Wolves and opened with him. Then you're going to rejig the order, but he's out of the team. Anyway, look, there's big pressure on Marnus because McSweeney's knocking on the door for that number 3 spot. Because McSweeney, for me, I've seen some unfair opinions that, he hasn't got the game for Test cricket. I think he's going to be a good Test cricketer. I think he's got pretty sound technique. He's just run into a challenge that I don't think he'll face, apart from probably batting in South Africa. You won't get a challenge like this in Test cricket. Bumrah at his peak on helpful pitches. But again, he contributed at Adelaide. Just the last test before this, I thought McSweeney played a very important role in that game, but obviously not good enough for the selectors. Yeah,
and I can see now that we're in crunch time that maybe KONSTAS has a better chance of succeeding. Come in, he's young, he's crazy. So not crazy, but he's got that youthful
no fear.
nature.
Yeah.
He hasn't been scarred. And but I'm with you. If they rejig the order and McSweeney's gone for that, that's bullshit. Because as I said, I think this selection, if you want to try and keep it stable, then this is a way to go. So then the other thing is Mitch Marsh. I actually think they should replace him with Inglis or Webster at the MCG, because I think both will contribute more to the team. Inglis, I think, is a better bat than Mitch Marsh.
Yeah.
But I can see a world where they go with back-to-back test matches. We're going to bring in Webster, who can bowl, 10, 15 overs a day. We don't have to worry about him like Mitch Marsh, because Mitch Marsh says he can bowl but doesn't. So I could see a situation where at the MCG and the SCG, Webster comes in for Marsh, despite Cummins being, he'll be very upset about it. Maybe he'll give Mitch Marsh a signed copy of his book or something to offset the dropping him. But the thing is, I can see that happening, or maybe Inglis coming in for Marsh. But and I guess the other thing sort of overshadowing this is Head did his groin a little at the end of the test match. They keep these things very quiet. He's in the squad. I think he'll probably be right for Boxing Day, but there is just a chance that he's not, and then Inglis comes in for him. But they cannot rejig the order. So KONSTAS has to play, and if I'm selecting, even though I think, Webster's, it's a tough initiation for him, but I'm still saying we need the bowling. He's batting pretty well. Let's give it a crack.
Yeah, we need the bowling. I agree, but I can't see it happening. You predict it'll happen. I can't see it. Marsh is just too loved by the group, and hopefully he can contribute overs in Melbourne, but his body is just broken at the moment. I just can't see it happening. They'll play him as a batter. They'll bring Boland in. They'll back the three quicks and Nathan Lyon to do the job with the ball, and hopefully that'll be that. But I can't see any other changes other than KONSTAS coming in to open. Because
and then
what's the point? What's the point of bringing KONSTAS in if you're not going to play him?
Yeah, and I guess the thing is, maybe the SCG test, that's when Webster might come in for Marsh.
Possibly.
Because they might need the bowling for that second game. Sam KONSTAS, he's played 11 first-class games. He's averaging 42 with 200s and 350s. Also made 100 against India in the PM's 11 game.
Yeah.
He made that 50 for the Thunder the other night, where he looked like a world beater. So it's really exciting. But so this is my thing, Charbel. Yeah, these next two test matches, as far as I'm concerned, it's all on the line. If Australia doesn't hold the Border-Gavaskar Trophy at the end of that, George Bailey should resign. Pat Cummins should stand down, and they need to rebuild the team with a new. I think, unfortunately, McDonald's contracted for till 2027, because I'd bring Dizzy Gillespie in. But this bullshit of the last 3 years of not wanting to make any changes, George Bailey hitting catches with the team, let's all be mates. It's gone back to before Sandpapergate, where it was like this sort of bubble that the Australian team was in, and once you're in, it was very hard to get out of it. And I didn't like Pat Cummins saying the other night, everybody in Shield cricket probably loves George Bailey. That's bullshit. I'm sure if you ask Marcus Harris how he feels about being strung along for 2 years and then not being given a chance to
Bancroft as well. Yeah, Bancroft as well. Yeah, because Bancroft was in great form for 2 seasons in the Shield, and then they put Steve Smith to opener last season. So you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it is all on the line, mate. We haven't won the Border-Gavaskar Trophy since we held it in 2014-15. So it's a long, long way. We've got to win that back, and the World Test Championship final is on the line as well. These are big games. The decisions you make, you got to get them right.
Yeah. So I'm just going to make this very clear. If Khawaja goes on after the SCG, this decision now is heinous. And if they allow Khawaja, I would be saying to Khawaja, even if you score 100, just retire. We're not going to pick you. Like Trevor Hohns, went into Steve Waugh one day and said, your one-day career is over. And that was it.
Yeah.
It was done. Like, where are the kahunas of our selection panel? And you know why you do it? You do it for the good of Australian cricket. You do it so you don't get into these situations right now, Charbel, where we're pointing the finger at everybody. because it doesn't seem like performances matter. And they keep going, oh, we've been winning, well, let's be measured. You haven't actually been like this amazingly dominant test side. You've been a very good one, but you haven't really had the big win. You never won in India. You haven't won in England. West Indies drew here. So they're on the decline.
The cracks were there last summer. If Pakistan could catch, I've said this to you before, if Pakistan could catch, they would have won at least a test, possibly two, the MCG and the SCG ones. Those matches were closer than the results suggested. That was an unconvincing 3-0. And the West Indies come and beat us in a test here. And, Alex Carey and Mitch Marsh, to his credit, and then Pat Cummins saw us out of trouble in that second test in New Zealand. So the cracks have been there for a little while. It's not just now. So, yes, there are some concerns about the batting. Big time.
And
Marnus
the future
need to score.
Yeah, and the future is so fixed on these next two matches because Bailey and co have preached consistency. They've backed these guys. They keep saying that they're good test cricketers, they'll come good. Well, if we don't regain the Border-Gavaskar Trophy, you have failed, because there were really good judges of cricket who said after the Perth test, they should have probably brought the axe in, and that was when you needed to do it. It's a bit harder to do when you've won one and had the better of a test match, and then we get in the situation where the youngsters the first to go. All right, so that's the selection news. Two other things I want to talk about before I wrap up. Bit of an internet rumor that Virat Kohli might pull the plug at the end of the Sydney Test match after Ashwin retired. The Kohli won't be far behind him. What do you think, Sharbel?
Yeah, I could see it happening. I think the end is near. When you keep getting out the same way constantly and the opposition doesn't have to think too hard about how to get you out, I think the end is near. Just in the channel outside off stump, time and time again. That dismissal in Brisbane, that was pretty damning for me. And I told Nash, my podcast co-host, I said, I think that's it. I think that's it for Virat. There's been hope for a long time that he can rediscover his best form, but we talk about out-of-form players. He's averaging 30 in the past 5 years. Maybe even less than 30 now. Something crazy, like 3 test hundreds in the last 60-odd innings. His test average has dropped to 47. We talk about Kohli as one of the fine players of this generation. He is, but that average has dropped from, early 50s, mid-50s to 47. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls the plug or if India make the call to say we're going to go in a different direction. But I think they'll let him make the call, and he might just make the call after Sydney. I see it happening.
Yeah, I think it's the right time. And if he does go, then we were lucky enough to see that 100 in Perth. And, he goes out, maybe retaining the trophy. And last thing I wanted to bring up is Juicy Reindeer put this in the chat. Menas, did you hear they renamed the One Day Cup to the Dean Jones Cup? I did hear, and I'm thrilled with this. Love Dean Jones. He growing up, he was a hero, one of the first Test cricketers I ever met. I bought his Victorian cap once, or a Victorian cap signed by Dean Jones. He to me is not only did he revolutionise one-day cricket, but he was just a gorgeous batter to watch. It was a combination of the wristiness you see in players from the subcontinent, but with a bit of that Australian brutality. And I think it's a fitting tribute to a man who we lost far too soon. Yeah, absolutely agree. Revolutionised the one-day game. Was an icon of Australian cricket, and I'm really happy that they've named the One Day Cup to the Dean Jones Cup. It was a great initiative by Australia to sort of recognise some of the greats of the game in this format. Bevan and Simons, etc. So, legends of the game. Absolutely. And I think the Player of the Match award at the One Day Cup final now will be the Michael Bevan Player of the Match award. So Bevan gets a nod, and then Andrew Simons got the bronze medal. I don't know what they're going to give him. Maybe they'll, I don't know, name something else, a hill or something. All right, Sharbel, well, thanks for joining me. I just wanted to jump on and record a quick emergency podcast. So the young 19-year-old Tyro has been recalled. I mean, I don't know if you remember when Ricky Ponting made his debut at a very young age. I don't know if it was 19, but it was over in Perth against Sri Lanka, and he was out LBW for 96, maybe 97. I'll be very happy if KONSTAS gets a 96. I'll be thrilled. Yep.
That would be so. If he takes on Bumrah and wins, then we've got a player for the next 10, 15 years who's going to do very well at Test cricket, because that's the ultimate challenge. Bumrah, a Boxing Day, a debut. Go well,
and if you
go well, son.
And the good thing for KONSTAS is if he got a stinker of a decision like Ponting got, he could refer it. Because I don't know if you remember, it was umpire Hyatt, I think.
Yes.
Ponting was hit on the thigh pad. The ball would have gone over 2 sets of stumps and he was giving out LBW.
Right. That's right. Fingers crossed he goes well. Look forward to it. I can't wait for Boxing Day. Weather's supposed to be very hot on day one, about 40 degrees. So test everyone out. But as long as it's not raining, look forward to it.
All right, so, that's it. Australian selectors are in disarray. McSweeney out, KONSTAS in. Can the Australians turn this series around? We'll find out. Sharbel, you take care. Where can the listeners catch up with all your great work? You and Nash should be doing a great job covering the series.
You can catch me on the Crickblog TV YouTube channel. We run our podcast episodes there, and also on Crickblog on Twitter and crickblog.net, the website. So a few places you can find me. Thanks, Menace.
All right, thanks, everybody. I'll be back with a Boxing Day preview just beforehand.